Welcome to Health Specialties edition of Nutrition by Dr. Trites. Glad you could be here today. The U.S. in health is an interesting phenomenon. We're number one in spending, but we're 38th in the world in health. Now, that doesn't make sense. If you're number one in spending, shouldn't you be number one in health or fairly close to the top? The big question is why? Well, the answer is our standard American diet. Sad. It's essentially what we eat. The average person that walks into my office is in there because of things that have been put in their mouth over the past few years or even the past month, like right after Halloween or after the holidays. We have a lot of sick people that walk in the door, people that have inflammation returning or swelling in certain parts of the body, and it's because of the food that they had. They're pro-inflammatory, they're pro-disease causing, and that's what causes our standard American diet, unfortunately, which is why we're number one in spending. But because we cannot stop putting those things in our mouth, or they're very convenient to have, we're 38th in the world in health. Adverse drug reactions, which are also known as ADEs, cost in excess of over $13 billion per year. This is more than cardiovascular disease, which is the next leading cause of, which is the leading cause of death in the United States. It beats out all cancers and all other forms of death by itself. Cardiovascular disease does. So the adverse drug reactions actually cost more than what's the leading cause of death. And according to the Journal of the American Medical Association, the ADAs account for about 140,000 deaths a year. That is a significant amount of deaths just from an adverse drug reaction. The New England Journal of Medicine reported that 30% of all hospitalization patients experience an adverse drug reaction. This makes me rather concerned about going to a doctor. When you're, my peer-reviewed journal says that if you go to one of my offices and there's a 1 in 3 chance that you're going to have a reaction there, I get a little bit hesitant about entertaining the idea of ever going to one. So it comes down to it. Do we have any genetic predisposition? Is a disease something that is really genetic, or is something that perhaps we learn from our parents as a series of poor choices, such as what do we eat? We typically eat what our parents made for us when we were children. Most diseases I see every day are choice disease. In other words, we can prevent most obesity, which is a root cause to many diseases, and we can prevent most heart attacks, heart disease, most cancers, most type 2 diabetes, most arthritis, just by making the right food choices. It's my job to inform you about the right choices now, or if you decide to wait, you're going to pay later. You're going to take a lot of medication, you're going to see a lot of doctors, you're probably going to end up in a nursing home, and you're not going to be willing to start if you're not willing to start now and make that simple life change, that really aren't that complicated. The United States is quickly sliding down the aptitude scale as students are being taught at the pace of the slowest student. This has to do with No Child Left Behind. That's not a bad idea. But the thing is, if that child is really far behind, that means that the rest of the class comes down as well. And what is most of the time making that child slower is food. So the food provided either at school, because you're on a discounted budget, you can only get what you can get, which is pretty much government provided food. It's not very healthy at all. More food is brought from home, and brought from home can be a wonderful thing, but most children, if we go and observe the typical lunchroom, consist of a child that has, let's say, some chips in there, maybe a pop, or a very high sugary drink that the first ingredient is high fructose corn syrup. They usually have some sort of bread product, again, that's sugar with, if they have a meat on it, great. The meat may not be perfect, it may be nitrate, or they might have jelly on there, which is another type of sugar. And then a fruit snack that doesn't have any fruit in it, but it's sugar. It's very rare that you find a child that brings some sort of fruit and vegetables to school without some sort of flavor enhancements that go along with it. Also, because of different programs and the way that schools are getting funded, right now the lack of routine physical education programs is becoming more severe. They're having to cut physical education to allow for other programs to go in place. And so, without being physically fit, it also enhances the effect of lousy food options. So if you at least worked out every day, maybe you wouldn't be as out of shape as you are, and such a high risk as you are with doing both. There are many studies for violent teens, or children who miss school, truancy, children who are anxious and depressed, or children who have ADD, ADHD, or my favorite, ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, and children who are tired, who no longer have a diagnosis once proper food is introduced. They've done this in many schools where they bring in organic food or whole foods and give them a balanced diet. Too often we spend money like you need to have to take this pill instead of taking the time to prepare foods. We often go out to eat, or we purchase processed food, and that means it has preservatives, or it's in a box, or it's in some plastic, because it's an easier and less time consuming as opposed to just preparing the food from home. I would estimate that about 90% of every case that walks in my door is a direct response of what goes in their mouth. So the first thing I'll talk about is soda or pop or soda pop, whatever you want to call it. This blocks calcium absorption. So for women, this is a great way to project or promote that osteoporosis. In athletes, this is a great way for you to not have muscles contract, because calcium is in muscles to contract. Well, if it blocks the absorption of it, that means your muscles aren't going to contract the way they should. It also will affect bone function and growth. It contains phosphoric acid, so it can degrade the teeth. It contains carbon dioxide, which is a metabolite we breathe out. Every time we take a deep breath, we breathe out a more or less a poison in our body called carbon dioxide. It's a byproduct. So we take in this product that has carbon dioxide. Guess what? It's getting into our system. Sugar is the next thing. We do need sugar to survive, but not white granulated sugar. Sugar is converted to glucose for the use of fight or flight. So if a lion jumps out, you need to run, or if you get cornered into backed into a corner, you need to be able to fight your way out. That's what sugar's for. Otherwise, we use cortisol. Cortisol stresses the adrenals. We have these little adrenal glands over our kidneys that support the rest of the body in any type of dysfunction. Let's say you have the flu and your bowels are upset, the adrenals support them. Let's say you have a cough and your lungs are needing some help, the adrenals support them. Well, if your food has taken away the ability of those adrenals to work, it doesn't support you as well, so you tend to get sick more often, tired more often. It also drives sugar cravings because it allows yeast to show up, and sugar, just white granulated sugar, messes up the insulin levels, making cortisol block binding sites, so therefore it can't even get in there. So now we have another issue, and it causes what's called adrenal exhaustion. Middle-aged individuals tire quicker, and they have symptoms of menopause, lack of libido, memory loss, and mood changes, and these are all due to sugar imbalances. That's the typical range. It's somebody in between 25 and, let's say, 50. But we're seeing these in children as well. Cardiovascular risk could be you have any activity, don't go work out, you might be overweight, you have some higher blood pressure, if you smoke, if you have high cholesterol, or if you have diabetes. 1 out of 2 person will have some form of heart disease in the United States. And do you have just one of these? Do you have all of these? Do you have just a few? If you have none, we're in great shape. More than half of my patients are at risk. And many undergo what's called a cardio pulse wave test to determine how we manage their risk. So here's a couple ideas for food choices. Number 1, we want to eat as many foods that rot or spoil, and of course we want to do it before it does. Otherwise it's just going to be nasty. This food has life. Insects will eat this food. They know what's going to have life. They're not influenced by any commercials. They're not influenced by peer pressure. They're not influenced by anything but what was going to keep them alive. So just for an example, a healthy bread. A lot of us have gone to the bread store, and we're to the store and brought home bread, and it's sat in our pantry, or maybe we put it in the freezer or whatever. But it may have taken a week or 2 or even longer to get through that whole loaf of bread. Or maybe you purchased the bread and it's already been on the shelf for 3 or 4 days. A healthy bread will grow mold in less than a week. Actually, it's about 2 or 3 days when it's really quality bread. We also want to eat as much color as possible. This is called phytochemistry, and you'll gain more nutrients this way, and it'll help to prevent nutritional deficiencies. What this means is you won't have to take as many supplements. We also want to eat foods as close to nature as possible, and how they were brought to the table about 100 years ago. So we want to avoid packaging, preservatives, canned, frozen, in that order, and it's a smart way to begin eating healthier and to start looking for real organic foods. Now, it has to be in that order, meaning that frozen, if you can't have anything as just right out of a garden, well, frozen is your next option, and the next option is canned, the next option is preserved. Almost all diseases can be prevented or reversed with a quality diet, and this includes cardiovascular disease, which 1 out of 2 of the people listening to this is going to have. What if you eat fried foods or foods containing trans fats? It's going to happen. These foods actually block your natural painkiller, so you're going to feel more pain because you're going to have more inflammation, as it blocks inflammation-controlling hormones, otherwise known as cytokines. A good rule of thumb is to shop around the edge of a shopping center, especially a grocery store. And the reason you do that is most of the junk food is on the inside, or the processed food is in the center of the store. The organic stuff, the fresh fruits, the vegetables, if you can get a quality meat there, are really on the outside of the store. So understand what an organic symbol is and read up on fake labels. This will help you understand what we consider the great egg debate. And it doesn't just go with eggs, it goes with all kinds of meats. For example, back and forth for years there's been, and this goes with almost all the nutrition as well, they'll tell you to take vitamin E and then not take vitamin E. And it's the same misunderstanding that goes with eggs. You're supposed to eat eggs, they're good for you, they're not supposed to be eggs, they're bad for you. Well, here's how to understand it. If it says organic, it doesn't mean anything. If it says cage-free, it doesn't mean anything, because I could let the chicken go out and be cage-free, but I still feed it a feed that might have hormones or antibiotics. If it says antibiotic-free, I don't worry about it, because I still could put him in the cage and give him a hormone, and vice versa with the hormone versus the antibiotic. We want, and the reason it is that if you do any of those, number one, the antibiotics and hormones can change your pH because you're eating that animal. And number two, if they're giving a specific feed, that changes what's in the egg, such as an omega-3 versus an omega-6, which is fried food, fat containing fatty acid. If they're allowed to go out and eat what's called free range and not live in a cage and pick up insects, their eggs will contain omega-3, which is inflammation blocking, which is a good thing. So we want them to have hormone-free, antibiotic-free, cage-free, or free-range chickens. That keeps a healthy egg. If it's not that, I mean, it may not be what you're looking for, and you're paying an upcharge for something that really is nothing special. So, if you can, you will eat organic foods whenever possible. These items, we can, has free-range, hormone-free, antibiotic-free. So we just discussed that. Organic is defined as free of artificial additives, less processing for chemical ripening, food irradiation, and genetically modified ingredients. They are allowed to have pesticide, but they cannot have synthetic pesticide. So you can have a pesticide like you can take peppers and make a paste or a spray out of it, which technically is a pesticide, and spray it on your plants or apples. That is considered a pesticide, but it is natural. If you can, make an organic juice daily. Get a juicer, or at least once a week, to get the natural vitamins and minerals in your body so that you can retain your strength. Man-made, unfortunately, is mistake-made. It's not natural. GMO, or genetically modified foods, are genetically altered. These nutrients are in decline and currently have about 1/5 of the nutrients they had from 1970. It's estimated because of the growth of the GMO food industry that by 2020 it's going to be 1/100th because of their mandatory involvement for seed producers. What this means is if you want to be a farmer and you want to purchase seeds, you have to get it from one particular company. That one particular company is going to tell you exactly what it's going to be, and it's going to be planted in certain areas, and if it gets over to somebody else's area, they're going to have to pay for it even though they didn't buy the seeds. They do this because they can increase the yield and production, meaning you can get more food out of an area, and allows, but there's a loss of nutrients, not only in the food, but the soil is actually worse than doing it naturally. It's really sucking it down. So as men, we add chemicals to change the flavor, such as chicken nuggets. It may taste like chicken, but it doesn't actually have any meat, or maybe it's organ or chicken byproducts with a chicken flavoring from chicken broth, but it may not be something that we normally eat from a chicken. We add preservatives to preserve food, but this can cause an increase in our metabolism or a decrease, and detoxify. Our detoxification system, such as our liver, has to work harder. And finally, we add food enhancers to make our food taste better than natural food. These food enhancers make us crave those foods even more, even though we know we're bad for us. This is called an addiction. This is pretty much the whole entire fast food industry. They change our palates to where children, or even adults, we don't even want to have a vegetable or fruit or even drink water because we're used to having something with sugar in it. It makes us crave it. It's a food addiction. Food enhancers have changed the palate of so many children. Again, they no longer want fruits or vegetables. Want to have to pull them off the refined foods and sugar drinks. So this process will return to normal, and it will, and those foods taste good once again. Science at some point times believe that it's superior to nature when it comes to humans. We are really 78% water, so many individuals go out and they go through the entire day and they drink little to no water. Water is the most common deficiency. It's the number one cause of fatigue, which is dehydration. This leads to, of course, food cravings, late night hunger, weight gain, and obesity. So drink your water. So when it comes to supplements, is it really in the bottom? I mean, can you go get a supplement or a pill or even a medication and you're supposed to be better? Well, unfortunately, evidence shows mass-produced nutrition doesn't always meet label claims. It's shocking in our advanced society, but most over-the-counter products don't meet those claims. In your case, this is a buyer beware. The University of Maryland School of Pharmacy evaluated that approximately 1/16 of bottles even meet their label claims. That means that 15 out of 16 times, or almost all the time, if you get something over the counter, it's probably not going to have what you're looking for. Concerning antioxidant purchases through the mail or catalog, less than 30% met their claims, and actually 14% had no antioxidant activity at all. That's pretty alarming. So this is why we have specific products that we carry to assure quality, that what's in there is really in there. Often bacteria, mold, or heavy metal contamination gets into those other products. Are you really getting a deal? If it's $3 cheaper than what we carry, are you really getting a deal? Does it actually have the ability to do the job that you're wanting for? I mean, you went in to buy that so you could preserve your health or make your health better. Is it going to do the job? And how many of those bottles will you have to have? And will they actually make you sick and cost you more treatments? Big questions. Our products have met pharmaceutical grade standards for production and have standardized their supplements. So that means what it is in there. I would highly encourage you to go on our website, www.healthsp.com, to read how to care for yourself.